One of the things I love to talk with people about most is resonance. You can have the most elaborate, detailed, effective, actionable marketing plan ever, but if you aren't thinking about and building your resonance from the inside out in your business, you're likely not connecting with your tribe or your client base the way you could be. I talk a lot with my clients and tribes about a model that I use, ACAR, which stands for authenticity, congruence, alignment, and the resulting factor is resonance, and how you can leverage that model to build your connection and your tribe effortlessly in a way that feels real and genuine and connective and fun. Super excited in this interview to bring to you Gail Barnes, who is the social media maven and master behind the incredible growth and engagement of Moon Alice and their social media platforms. She also helps smaller clients in this, most recently been helping grow a new tech company called Reverb, which is a news platform app. She's had amazing results. She's a woman who works from the heart, from a place of connection, authenticity, positivity, and light. I think you'll really enjoy hearing her take on resonance and the secrets behind her incredible success in helping grow brands and platforms through social media. So it's audio only, and you'll hear about 45 minutes of Gail sharing with us her incredible experiences. I want to thank her so much for joining us, and I'm so super excited to share this with you guys. Enjoy. So I was really excited and thankful when you said that you were willing to be interviewed, and so I was just thinking we could kind of start with, you know, who you are and the story of how you got connected to Moon Alice, and then and shall I connect you to Moon Alice and Reverb, or what's the best way to introduce you?
Probably Moon Alice. That's the longest social media relationship that I've had.
Okay.
So my name is Gail Barnes. Waving at everybody. Sorry you can't see me. Actually, that's a little bit of a fib. I have hair from hell today, so the voice is a much, much, much better way of imagining what I look like. I have been involved with social media since 2008. I was at a conference in Los Angeles when I heard about Twitter from Craig Newmark, and he did a presentation on Twitter, and I followed him out of the auditorium afterwards and talked to him about his experience. And I was just so incredibly intrigued with the whole concept that night after the conference, I stayed online till about 2 a.m. with my Twitter account. And so I was one of the first people who started to use Twitter. You know, to this day, I still have to explain to some people who don't get social media and who don't get Twitter what it's all about. Back in 2008, it was really like the dark ages. You know, no one was on Twitter.
Right.
Anyway, I made some really interesting friends while I was there. And one of these friends was a hip-hop band called Mental Elastic in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Now, if you're like me, I've been telling Lindsay that I live on a pond next to a prairie preserve out on the road to Rockford in Illinois, so we're thinking Midwest kind of living here. So for me, I had never met or talked to a hip-hop band. And, you know, one that came from Kalamazoo, Michigan was kind of an extra, you know, that was the cherry on the top in terms of unusual relationships for me. But they're really nice guys, and I was having a great time, you know, talking to them and discovering new things about music. And I saw an article about something called Twittercasts. And these were shows which were broadcast live where the band that was doing this, called Moon Alice, was broadcasting these shows one song at a time over Twitter. And I read about this on TechCrunch. And so I sent the material off on Twitter to my friends in Kalamazoo thinking that it could be interesting for them. Well, lo and behold, what happens next is Moon Alice replies to me and offers to send me a copy of their new CD. Now, in my mind, Moon Alice and Mental Elastic were kind of artists. I thought sort of similar kind of artists in terms of career development, if we put it that way. And I did not want to accept the CD. I wanted to offer to pay for it. But I didn't really know how to do this without causing offense. And in the end, I decided it was being rude not to accept a gift which somebody wanted to give to me. So I wrote back on Twitter and said, well, I would love to have a copy of the CD, which they sent to me, which Roger sent to me, Roger McNamee. And, I just knew them as Moon Alice on Twitter, and when the CD arrived, I was actually on my way to a meeting in Madison, Wisconsin, and I didn't have a chance to listen to the CD on the way there. I was probably on calls or something like that, but on the way back, I put the Moon Alice CD into my car's player. And wow, I got to song number 3, which was I'm Glad You Think So. And it's a 2.5-hour drive from Madison, Wisconsin back to where I am. I kid you not. I hit replay for the next 2 hours. Same song. Have you ever had a song that it was like the Pied Piper was playing? And I... Not having a mountainside to run into. I just drove my car hitting replay as I listened to that song. By the time I got back home, I knew every single word in it. And I was basically hooked. And Moon Alice were kind of on Twitter and trying to get the word out. And I decided to help them. I decided to help Roger. And still had no idea beyond that I really, really loved the music of anything further about Moon Alice or anything further beyond what I saw on the website. So that is how I came to know Moon Alice. About a couple of months after we met on Twitter, I was going to New York for business, and Roger invited me to come to a show. And it was kind of round that time that the penny finally dropped for me that, in more depth about who members of the band were and stuff like that. It was my birthday, and Bono was at the concert. Roger and Anne sang happy birthday. There were cupcakes for everybody, It was, I did not come back from that conference. I did not come back from that concert the same way that I went out, I got stars in my eyes. That was April 2009, and basically I've had them ever since. And I went over the course of time from being Moon Alice's biggest fan to and helping them on their social media in an informal way to when I started my own company a couple of years later. Moon Alice was my first client, and I've helped Roger grow the Facebook page, for example, from 400, which is when I joined forces informally in 2009, and today we hit 340,000 people. Somebody said on Facebook that, a real milestone would, of course, be 500,000. I couldn't help saying, well, it's the first 340,000 that are the most difficult. After that, just slide. You're into the second base or whatever. Anyway, so that's the story of me and Moon Alice, my hobby, and music I fell in love with, and a band I became very passionate about became my customers, my clients, for when I started my business. And now, actually everybody that I work with, whether it's via Moon Alice or whether it's via someone else, is by referral. Because it's somebody that will have worked with me in the past who refers somebody new, and that's how Reverb came about. So it's, whereas the learning in there is that when you find, this is something that Steve Jobs and so many people have said as well, but when you find something that you can do, which you can do for 15 hours a day, and it does not feel like work,
yep,
then you've discovered something that is resonating within yourself.
yep.
And I believe that when that happens, the passion that you feel for what you do can be felt by other people. And, I've seen it so many times on Twitter that when I have felt particularly passionate about something, and whether this gets into the whole area of quantum entanglement, which is, a part of quantum physics that is really interesting, and kind of when I talk about resonance, that's what I mean. It's in terms of what is also called sympathetic vibrations. My interpretation of that in a social media context is that you can have somebody in one place be feeling very, very strongly, very, very passionately about something. And some of that energy gets carried in the communication. And because it's almost, communication and social media is almost instantaneous, a message can go around the world, that very, very shortly after, other people can feel that passion. They can feel the energy that one has channeled into one's communication. I know, I've been told that when I do presentations in person, that apparently the passion comes across. I can't see myself, so, and when I watch a video, I don't get it. But apparently passion is something that one can feel. And I'm convinced that one can share this on social media as well. And it starts when you share what is in your heart, when you share what is making and this is what my little talk on Facebook is about, when you share what is making your heart beat faster, other people can feel that. And the message is reach down inside yourself, and I think one of my cousins phrased it so beautifully. Find your crazy, find the stuff that you absolutely love talking about, communicating about, and then find, when you build your tribe, there are people who are going to find you, and there are people that you will find, and those people will feel that resonance. They will start to vibrate at the same frequency as yourself. And it can be really, really exciting when that happens. And, when you can build a community like we have with Moon Alice, where you've got 340,000 people, that can truly, truly become exciting. And some of our posts, the ones that go viral, these can get taken to the most we've had is about 6 million.
Wow.
You know, the mind starts to boggle when you go down through a stream of comments, which will run into their thousands, you know, that have been shared by 6 million people. What I can tell you, having done that, is, you know, you get sub-themes developing which have a life of their own. It's a totally fascinating exercise to watch. You know, you lose total control of it as an admin. You can just watch it kind of happen.
Wow.
And it happens often enough that, you know, it gives Moon Alice the incredible engagement figures that one has. You know, so find the passion, talk about what you're passionate about, and you know, really understand the people with whom you are trying to communicate. What is it that they want to hear? What tone do they want to hear you saying it? Mm-hmm. And another strong message is it's not all about me. For all the pages that I work on, only 1 in every 6 posts will be directly related to whatever it is that page is about. Yeah. You know, for the rest, it is with stuff that builds that relationship. Think of it as weaving a magical web that attaches you to the people that you most want to be attached to. And it's each post, each communication, each tweet is like a very, very fine thread that connects you to them, and day by day, and each day you really have to do it again and again and again. You build those fine threads between you. And these are the ones where you're not talking about yourself. You're talking about things of mutual interest, you know, that will resonate with them. And you build these relationships kind of one thread at a time. And it's a very delicate web that one weaves, because one bad interaction, you know, if one is a spider and somebody comes a-dusting, there goes your web. And then you start again. Right. So, you know, you always have to be very, very careful, very gentle with the relationships and with the posts and tweets that you are using to build those relationships, so that they always reinforce. You know, reality is that every now and again, for whatever reason, there can be a hiccup.
Sure.
And then you just have to kind of, you know, start building again. If it's a mistake that one has made, and we all, you know, make mistakes, and in our interactions online, there should be a lot of experimentation, because that's where the innovation comes from. But with experimentation, inherent with that comes the risk that something will go wrong. And when it does, say sorry, apologize. You know, one never loses anything by saying sorry first.
Right.
And then you carry on, and you carry on building. Yeah. So it's something really that one has to do every day. For everybody that I work with, it's not something that one does a couple of times a week. It literally is an everyday activity. Little by little, one builds the relationship. And if you're a brand, of course, you're reinforcing your brand values every single time that you reach out with some kind of communication or another. Well, that's enough speaking from me, Lindsay. Let's have some questions.
I do have a question. I'm wondering, as one of the things that entrepreneurs that I work with face is the challenge around scaling and continuing to deliver to their social media platforms in the same way that they did in the beginning when it was just them and they were able to really convey that person to person passion. Are you still handling Moon Alice social media, or have you been able to grow a team to support you in that while keeping your resonance and engagement so high?
No, I do everything with Moon Alice and Reverb and with the customers that clients that I work with myself. I don't, I use automation to the extent that I schedule posts
Uh-huh.
and I use tools that allow me to have a buffer of material.
Sure.
But, you know, if to have material kind of go out automatically in the event of a major disaster and this has happened, this is a real case where on one occasion it was an earthquake, on another occasion it was one of these mass shootings that one so tragically has.
Sure.
If there is some major disaster, it is so important that one immediately expresses one's empathy, one's sympathy, one's concern, and pulls anything that might contradict, something that is
Yes.
unpleasantly affecting your larger group. I mean, there has been an occasion when I have been out, and it was a really horrible tragedy that affected a major group of, the audience of one of my clients, racing home to be able to get online, to be able to respond appropriately.
Sure.
There are programs out there that will talk about, scheduling at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the right content is much more important than the right time, because poor content is poor content even if the timing is perfect.
Sure.
And I would rather have poor content. People work with me to be able to get, really it's about the content and it's about the relationship building. Should I scale? I do have plans. I call my company the size of a yellow polka dot bikini because it's itsy bitsy teeny weeny. But, should I scale, it would be in the back end first and not in the part which directly touches the work that the clients do, because, well, my little company, I guess, if it's not the bikini analogy, it falls under the kind of level of boutique.
Sure.
I don't want to. I have no desire to get big. I had a career in corporate, and one of the things that happens when you advance in a corporate environment is you don't land up doing the fun things anymore. In my career, some of the most fun that I've had was when I was a brand manager, back in my Unilever and Sara Lee days. So I don't want to grow to the extent that I'm back where I was, where I'm not doing the fun stuff.
Absolutely.
Anymore. I have to tell you that on previous occasions and now, have found that the best way to grow is by not desperately trying to grow. In a couple of not-for-profits that I have set up, my goal was actually not to make a profit, but to return every all the money that was made as a result of the services and goods offered to deserving causes. And on both occasions where I have done this, I have run into issues that more money was made. We struggled to give back because we were making more money than we ever expected to make.
Sure.
One situation was in South Africa where I set up work circles for women who would make promotional material, and then we'd plow the profits back into sewing machines, which we would give to more women who would have more opportunities of creating small businesses. And we gave away a lot more sewing machines than we ever expected to. So not to try too hard, if and always to keep the people part,
Yeah.
in mind. Otherwise, it becomes about money, and maybe I'm looking at it of the perspective of a different, point in a human life cycle than other people would. But some of the longer lasting and more rewarding parts of life have absolutely nothing to do with the quality of one's life, which is about relationships, it's about people, and it's not about the money part. So, I think to try too hard sometimes is counterproductive, has been my experience.
I love it, because there is a component of that kind of organic, gentle, generous feeling that is so attractive. So it makes sense that would play into the resonance, and that those threads that you describe building so beautifully. Gail, what are your thoughts about frequency? I know that's another question that people struggle with. How often to post? And there's a lot of different schools of thought around, and obviously each platform is different. But what are your thoughts about frequency?
We really post as often as we feel like it. When we have something to say.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a minimum, which is probably around 4, but with Moon Alice, we break every rule in the book when it comes to frequency. There is a spur of the moment component,
yep.
an unexpectedness, which if you know Moon Alice and you know Roger,
yep.
is entirely consistent with the brand to have spontaneity.
Yep.
So, if you have something to say it.
Yeah.
Don't keep it in, because you'll lose the energy and the passion of the moment. People want to have too many rules about things. So there's a rule for this, and there's a rule for that. And, when you have too many rules, you lose spontaneity. And I'm a great believer in spontaneity and, the passion that is inherent in being spontaneous.
Absolutely.
So, if one has a rule of thumb that says 4 posts a day and maybe 5, but gee, on an extra special day, that there is these 2 things that you've just seen are going to go down amazingly well with your target group. Well, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Experiment. That, so much of what we manage to do with so little funding on social media is because we experiment and we find things that we didn't know. I don't think even Facebook knows some of the stuff that we're finding out through our experiments. My company's Facebook page is my little greenhouse where I try out all these ideas. It's like planting seedlings, and I
Sure.
watch them grow and I see what resonates. So sometimes, well, usually, not sometimes, most often when I share something on a client's page, it comes with some pre-testing
Got it.
having been done before. So experiment, experiment, experiment. It's something that Roger believes in, and it's something that I wholeheartedly believe in as well. So, that said, you don't want to have, it's related to the content, it's related to having good content and being spontaneous about it.
Sure.
There is obviously a point in time when you will get resonance pushback from your intuition, which says, whoa, 20 is perhaps too many. And that's when it starts not feeling right, that's an occasion to scale back. Or, of course, if you get feedback from your constituents, that, enough is enough. But, that said, Twitter, the half-life of any tweet is round about 15 minutes.
Wow.
So, literally one could post every 15 to 20 minutes and it would be seen by a new bunch of people. Twitter's a lot more forgiving in that regard than Facebook.
Sure.
So, bear that in mind, and something that seems reasonable and that feels right, that will be the right number for any particular organization, person, group, etc.
I love it. I love that you're mapping it back to what feels right, because that ties into, the way you initially framed resonance, which is if it resonates with you. It's touching back into what feels right for the individual, because that's ultimately what comes across as most authentic and true. I love that. So I have another question, and I have a feeling this is something that you and Roger have in common as well. And that is your relationship building with individuals. So Roger did something very interesting when he noticed that he had you as a fan, which was to reach out and to make a connection, and that actually put you in a position to learn more about his work and to fall in love with song number 3. And I'm wondering, do you also kind of keep an eye out in your growing tribes for those connectors and those fans, and what is that like for you, that people building piece, people relationship building piece? I mean.
Oh, absolutely. I could give you a list probably of the top 20 to 30 fans for each of my clients.
Sure.
And I certainly recognize the names of the top 100 or so. I mean, yes, of course, I've got all sorts of tools which allows me to recognize and sort them as well. But I know that there is a lady who's a very big fan of one of my clients who's got a disabled husband who loves music, and I can tell you the things she likes and doesn't like because people share this with you.
Sure.
Sometimes it's hard to know what words to use to feed back to people when they share things. And I've found that hearts, smiles, and hugs are very good things to use when words become difficult, and plus they look so pretty on the page, and I suspect that people enjoy them as much as I enjoy giving them. So nearly every person who makes a comment will get a like. My rule of thumb is if I can understand what it is that they are trying to say and that part is necessary. If it's positive,
Sure.
it gets a like. It gets a reinforcement.
Sure.
For the regulars and to encourage people, I will randomly use hearts, smiley faces, hugs, happy whatever the day it is, or happy whatever the thought is that's occurring. This morning, the first 5 people who replied with a comment to some posts got a shout out with their own names in a Happy Tuesday.
Oh, nice.
There is a lady who just about likes and comments it's actually every post that is made across multiple pages that I manage. So, I give her different reinforcement on the different page. So she won't get a heart on Moon Alice as well as Reverb, for example. She'll get depending on what her comment is. It's like you would in real life. If you run into somebody twice
Sure.
at the same party, you're going to say different things to them each time.
Sure.
The first time's going to be, hello, how are you? Haven't seen you for so long. And the next time it's going to be, by the way, how is so-and-so, or how is this going?
Sure.
You learn so much about them, their hobbies. You learn things that you don't want to know about them. People share about their sex life. Try to downplay that, especially if you've got good-looking people in the band. One has to be careful that people don't misunderstand.
Sure.
So gentle disencouragement for oversharing of X-rated material.
Of course. I
But
imagine you also have a pretty gentle approach with disincentivizing negativity too. How have you managed that in your tribes?
First of all, it never gets reinforced.
Right.
The first time I updated my profanity filters in Facebook, I thought, oh my goodness, Roger, if he goes in there, is going to be stunned that I probably even know words like that. So you can put those words in so that anybody who ever uses them
Sure.
is automatically blocked.
Okay.
And I recommend doing that. It was as embarrassing as the days long for me the first time I did it. But having done that, Facebook does the heavy lifting now because it will automatically hide people who use those words.
Got it.
There are some words that are what would be called swear words.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are some words that I guess it's my personal value system coming through, but some words that I personally feel, and these tend to be of the ist variety.
Yes.
Sure. All the bad things that end in ist, these words should never see the light of day in a social context.
Yes, I agree.
So those are blocked from the start.
Lovely. Yeah.
Then there are some people who are just nasty.
Sure.
And I have no hesitation for delete, block, and ban. Life is too short for the really, really, and there, unfortunately, and it doesn't happen that often, but there are some people who would create distress for, a large group of your population, and you've just got to make the decision that it's like if one has a beautiful garden and there is something that comes in there and starts to destroy or very negatively affect the growing environment for the rest of the garden, you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
The social media equivalent of weeding. And, some people are just not going to fit in an environment. And one tries to have a very big tent, but if they attack, you particularly get people who will attack other people in a group.
Sure.
This is untenable, and that's why Twitter gives you the opportunity to, block and report those kind of accounts when that happens. And, it just actually happened on the weekend that one of my clients got involved with, it was a group that started innocently enough sharing photographs which became more and more pornographic during the course of the morning. And, such a sweet account in New York got involved, pulled the client's account into it, and then I was playing whack-a-mole with, porn that was getting worse and worse.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes. You've got to be, and it was causing a lot of distress
Sure.
to the client, and it was very reassuring to them that it was immediately addressed. Sometimes you just got to play whack-a-mole, and, it's amusing that it was a pair of high-heeled red shoes which just rapidly went downhill to faces painted on naked rear ends. I mean, can you believe that this is what you can have to deal with a bit on social media? But that's what happened.
When it devolves, it can devolve quickly.
Yes. And, so it was block, ban, and report to Twitter.
Sure.
And, and of course, don't feed the trolls. The worst thing that you can do is give them any recognition. And, in this case, it just got to be a bunch of men. We're enjoying sharing these pictures, but we're pulling my client in with it. So,
of course, right.
A combination of using the tools supplied for that very reason by the social media platform, plus not getting involved, distancing.
Sure.
It worked. And, now we can all look back and smile on our weekend, but it really wasn't pleasant on Sunday when it was happening.
I'm sure. Yeah, when things are going so quickly like that and you're trying to respond in the moment.
Just one thing to mention,
yes.
because this has happened, and when it happens, and if it hasn't happened to one before, it can be enormously disconcerting. Social media is a wonderful place, but it can become the equivalent of the Lord of the Flies.
Yes.
Do you know the
yes,
part in the Lord of the Flies where the kids are dancing around the bonfire?
Yep.
And you get the advent of groupthink,
yep.
which is what happens in a riot if that ever happens on a social media page, and if there is a particular post that is causing it, delete it.
Okay.
Get rid of it. Take away the thing that is causing that is becoming the lightning rod of the mob mentality. God forbid that this happens. It's happened once or twice with clients. You just have to delete it, and and start to address in a one-on-one basis privately with the people concerned. Take it out of the public eye. Don't ever get into an altercation.
Yes.
And there are some horror stories of people who've done this. Don't start arguing about it on social media. Direct message or message. If an apology is necessary, make it abject and sincere.
Sure. Absolutely.
But don't do it in the public eye. But the immediate thing is get rid of whatever is bringing, the lightning rod of what is causing it.
Absolutely. So I also am really aware that that lightning rod of positivity happens too sometimes. And there's that moment when an unexpected post hits a chord with people and it just becomes that amplification of rainbows and light and fun and love. And I know that probably more than anyone that I know, you've experienced those moments. Would you be willing to share just a moment from your own history of a really fun or tickling post and what happened?
Um, well, yes, there was one of those posts that went viral that I mentioned to you was about it was a picture of a man holding a dog. Excuse me.
Sure.
And it was a German Shepherd, beautiful dog. Dog was 10 times his size, and he was holding it in a hug. And we shared it on a page, and it went viral. And the owner of the dog contacted the page, and we started a discussion with him, and he shared the weight and what he ate and what he liked to play with. And so we were updating in terms of the comments.
Oh, fun.
All this information about him. And then his friend wrote in, who was actually the guy who was holding the dog. So we included in details of the friend. And
Oh, how fun.
yeah, then sadly, there was a little girl playing in the dirt. There were some nasty people who, I mean, she was just a little girl playing who kind of didn't understand that. So that was something not so nice. Her grandmother got involved, so we were supportive of the grandmother.
Sure.
But, mostly it was watching and, sharing with people further details about the good stuff.
Yep.
As with most things in life, there was also a downside to that, the little girl playing where some people, weren't so nice in their comments. And so when that happened, I just deleted those, they were just, sometimes you can have a Debbie Downer, just one bad comment can kind of ruin the whole train for the rest of the folks.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to just do the weeding thing. But it was absolutely magical, 6 million people sharing, 20,000 comments.
How fun.
And people, what's really nice is people share pictures of their pets.
Yeah.
And then you can give them some love and you can give them a like and you can give them a heart. And you just know that those people are going to feel good as well.
Yeah.
It's actually very, very special to know that something so small that you can do, make a heart and send somebody a heart. People will write to you and say what a difference that has made. And I get a lump in my throat every time that happens. It's just one feels blessed to be in an opportunity where in life it can really, really be very, very difficult sometimes, that just something so simple that you can do can really make such a huge difference to people. And, just to mention, Moon Alice, when people get ill or are going through a rough time, Roger will actually dedicate a song to them as part of the show. And I can tell you, I've been one of those people. I've been lying in the ER and really not in very good shape at all. And I can't tell you the healing effect of having somebody dedicate a song to you and then singing that song for you. So Hallelujah is very, very special as part of the Moon Alice.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Because, I'm one of countless people. So I know from, personal experience just how healing that can be, and that in combination with the other the other kind of good stuff that one has a possibility to do, that is very, very special. You know, one gets to touch people's lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get to touch people's lives at moments when they're very vulnerable.
Yep.
And to always respect that.
Yep.
And to always, to have love in your heart
Yep.
when you reply and when you interacting with those people, because it's so true. They'll forget what you said, but they'll never, ever, ever forget how you made them feel. And that can be a good thing.
Yeah.
And it can be a bad thing. So for anybody who's going off to do something with social media, make sure it's always a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, tremendous potential to have, a reach that brings a lot of love and light toward and healing to people. Gail, I know we're going to wrap up here, but I always like to ask at the end, if there were one piece of advice you were to give someone who might be trying to build their tribe, or maybe has been working on it for a while and hasn't quite hit their stride and is starting to, question their efforts on social media, what's one thing that you would recommend that they could do?
Now I have to think what the one thing would be is, I think it's very good to have benchmarks.
Mm-hmm.
And Facebook, for example, allows one to watch other pages.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that Roger, for example, finds very inspirational is George Takei.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally find him extraordinarily inspirational as well.
Mm-hmm.
Find a source of inspiration, I would say, and that can be a social media account. In real life, that could be a mentor. One could talk to them
Yes.
as well, and kind of learn by watching.
Yeah.
I think, and don't feel afraid when one is learning by watching to purloin or to borrow with pride, because I think that's one of the biggest compliments one can give to someone, is if something that they have done becomes an inspiration for something to do yourself. So watch, be inspired, and don't be afraid to experiment.
Lovely. Well, you are certainly an inspiration to myself, and I know to everyone listening. Thank you so much, Gail, for joining me today and for sharing your story and these amazing insights about your experience helping spread light and love through social media.
Well, thank you, Lindsay. It's been my pleasure, and best of luck to you and to everybody else. Lots of light and love to all.
Thank you. So that is Gail Barnes. Isn't she amazing? From the voice to her experience to her perspective on the nitty-gritty of social media, but also a lot of the energetics and vibe behind it. So I hope you enjoyed it. You can find Gail online at personify.biz, and also, of course, check out her pages with Moon Alice and Reverb. Thanks so much. Take care.